Welcome to my review of Super Turrican 2 for the Super Nintendo. This is actually a really high quality action game with a lot of diversity in the types of gameplay. Very cool game. And it doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's probably one of the, in ways I would say it's one of the best action games, side-scrolling action games on the system. But I do have a few issues with the game that, for me, takes it down a few notches. But I'll get into that a little later in the review. So, yeah, you have different types of weapon pickups that you get, and that'll change your weapons. So you have flamethrowers, and you have these screen-clearing bombs that also damage bosses. Homing missiles and shit that come out of your weapon and will damage the enemies. And you also have a grappling hook that lets you swing from platforms and also scale buildings, which is pretty cool. Sometimes you get vehicles like shown here. There's a lot of variety in the gameplay to keep the stages fresh. And you'll see in a moment after this little driving sequence that I'll be scaling a building, which is very cool to do in the middle of a stage. It's a nice variety of different things going on. See, now I'm climbing up the building, and you got to shoot these enemies or avoid them. You also have a beam that can freeze enemies, too, and turn them into stone. And I believe you can use those stone enemies as platforms in some parts. But see here, you use your grappling hook. You can also use it to swing across areas. So the action is great. You really do use the grapple hook in great ways later in the game, where you're hanging from flying ships and you have to do some pretty crazy platforming. It's actually be quite a challenging game, but it's a great game overall. You have a lot of boss fights. This is the mini boss. But there's always mini-bosses in most of the stages, and then a main boss, usually at the end. Each stage is pretty long. Like the first game, I believe there's only 4 stages, but they're very long stages. So the game, I believe the full game is around an hour long or something, so it's not a short game. Somewhat of a typical length for action games in the 16-bit era. A lot of them are around an hour long. So yeah, here you see me swinging from this ship, shooting enemies. Very cool. Now I'm traversing from worm to worm. So it's constantly switching up the gameplay. I mean, it has some of the most variety of any action game on the Super Nintendo, or of that time period. Quite an impressive game. The scaling is very impressive. The Mode 7 effects on the bosses. Here I'm inside a mouth fighting a fucking tongue. There's a lot of cool variety, though. There's a lot going on in this game. And this is another game that I completed, so this is I edited down a tutorial that I did of the full game, which I'm going to link the tutorial in the description, and you can check that out. It makes a good little companion piece to playing the game. You get to hear my thoughts on each part and some of my strategies, all the strategies that I used. So this part's cool. You're jumping down from platform to platform, and you're going to go underneath this ship and grapple onto it, and it can be pretty challenging. It's easy to get knocked off, but it's actually very cool. But like I said, it is a challenging game. It's definitely a pretty hard game. It's not extreme or anything for these kind of games, but it's, going to be much harder than something like Contra for the NES. Which, as I've said before, I consider to be a pretty moderate game for this era of gaming. And then also you have vehicle sequences like this that are very cool, where you're dodging shit and shooting enemies and ramming them. You can see there's a shit ton of variety in this game. I mean, there's really a lot of different types of gameplay. So here I'm on the side of a wall fighting a boss. I mean, there's always something different going on in the stages, which I really like about the game. The graphics are some of the best on the system. The sound is top notch. I mean, the music is Turrican music, which, is usually great music. So here's a different variation of another vehicle sequence where you actually ram guys and shoot them. It's very cool. And this is a game with limited continues, so you have to learn this game, but you can get one-ups and shit like that. So this is a game that you will have to learn, but you save and load states to practice each section and really master them, and then put the game together is how I recommend playing these kind of games. And yeah, in the tutorial I go into detail about how long this game took me to beat. I don't remember exactly how long this one took, but I will detail all that in the tutorial. So here you're fighting a boss by climbing onto the spider web and shooting it. Very cool boss fight. What I tried to showcase in this review is when I went through the entire playthrough and I tried to, as usual, highlight all the key moments and different types of gameplay and things like that to really show the kind of variety that the game has. And I do show the full final boss fight, which I like to do in a lot of these reviews. Now here's my biggest complaint of the game, the fucking water level. It's a water maze. And it's very fucking irritating because you're going to be constantly trying to find where to go to find these tubes you have to go into and destroy these 3 or 4 generators that you have to destroy to open up the gate to the next area. Now, this is my biggest issue with the game. For this, I deduct a lot from the game because it makes it so that I wouldn't want to replay this game again. Because when I beat this part, I didn't really have the maze memorized, and I felt like I got lucky because all the areas, they look very, very similar. You know, it's all rock formations and shit. So for me, one of my biggest complaints in games is fucking mazes. I hate getting lost in games, and I'm real bad with navigation. So, for me, this is a huge shit stain on a great game. So, you know, since this is my opinion on the game, it's going to take a hit in the score. What's annoying is that as you get lost and go back and backtrack to find where you're supposed to go, you're running out of time, so you can lose lives that way. And you're also getting attacked by enemies constantly. So as you're getting lost, you know, you're getting attacked by enemies and dying. And most of the time I had times when I'd waste all my continues on that fucking area, on that one area. You know, which is shitty because it's not really a skill thing as far as, you know, managing enemies. It's a skill as far as memorizing, I guess, navigation, memorizing where to go, if you consider that a skill that you want to have in a game. But for me, that's the kind of thing I don't like in games at all. So that's a huge fucking, you know, negative for me on the game. But now for other players, you know, this game, you know, that may not be a big deal. You may not have much of a problem memorizing areas, and you may not mind that kind of gameplay. So for you, this game is probably going to be a few points higher than it is for me. But I don't want to completely shit on the game because of one bad part. Now, this part is cool in the water stage. This is like a Gyrus-style vehicle level where it reminds me of Gyrus, where you move kind of in a radial way in circles. And you shoot shit that way and dodge that way. It's pretty cool. I actually like this segment a lot. And the next part of the water section is actually pretty decent, too. It's an auto-scroller shooter style, which is actually pretty cool. And the boss fight is decent. So I would say the second half of the water level is actually pretty good. It's not great. It's not as good as the other levels. It's definitely the weakest level in the game. But that first part, man, I thought that was fucking shit. You know, so when I review a game, I'm definitely going to come down on games for shit I don't like. But yeah, the boss fight was fairly cool. It wasn't one of the best boss fights, though, either. So all in all, this water stage was a very weak point compared to the rest of the game. And like I said, I thought that first part was fucking shit. But again, that may just be me. Now, this part is very cool. This final stage starts off as an overhead shooter with some very cool scrolling effects. You know, very, very cool. It was similar to another Super Nintendo game that's not coming to my mind right now, but there was another Super Nintendo game, starts with an A, that was like this. And it was actually a very good game. Probably one I should review as well. But, yeah, this is cool. Now, the only issue with this is that it's a little tricky to dodge shit because of the perspective. So sometimes you do get hit by bullets pretty easily because it's kind of hard to see what's going on sometimes. But you do get used to it. As, you know, with many shooters, you have to memorize positioning and shit like that mainly, which you'll learn. As I said, I recommend practicing with save and load states to really master each segment and then put the game together. And now you have a pretty cool boss fight against a huge face, which is a pretty cool fight at the end of the shooter section. But you can see how the variety in this game really doesn't stop. Like, every section is quite different. It plays different, and it really utilizes every type of variety that you can really think of. I mean, you know, it pretty much does just about everything as far as different types of gameplay. I mean, the only thing it doesn't do is it's not a fucking first-person shooter, you know, but, I mean, it's got just about everything else. So this is actually a pretty hard boss, so this can take some practice to get down. The stage is pretty tough, too, so the last stage can be one of the tougher parts of the game. if you have a few lives, you can at least respawn with those lives. So then this next section, you clear out some easy enemies, but it's mainly about boss fights. The final stage, once you get to this point, it's pretty much mostly boss fights. And this guy can be tricky as well. It's going to be about learning patterns yet again. So with enough practice, you'll get down what you need to do. And I explain it all in the tutorial, so check that out. If you actually want to beat the game, you'll probably find the tutorial useful. I'm doing these reviews a little bit later when the games aren't as fresh in my mind, so the tutorial will give a fresher perspective. So yeah, there's a nice variety. Like with this boss fight, it's more of a human-sized opponent, where most of the bosses up until this point have been all huge bosses, massive machines, shit like that, spiders, a fucking stingray. But yeah, there's a lot of bosses and a lot of variety in this game. So this is the final boss. And this is a tricky boss, but very learnable. It did take me some practice to get down. It's not an easy final boss. But there's a very specific way to play it, which I break down in the tutorial. But it's kind of cool. You're escaping this rushing lava as you're fighting the boss, so it can be quite difficult. But again, it's a nice variety because it's something different. It's the first boss where you actually have to escape something while you're fighting the boss, so that's actually pretty cool. So like I said, the game doesn't really become complacent at any point. It pretty much always introduces new elements to the gameplay. Keeps it fresh. And, overall, I would say, it's probably one of the best side-scrolling action games on the system and of that time period. But for me, it's definitely going to get fucking knocked down because of that stage. I just really fucking hated that stage. So it takes the gameplay experience down for me, wanting to replay it because I wouldn't want to deal with that stage again since I really don't like trying to memorize mazes. And as I said, when I did beat it, I felt like I got lucky and found all the areas I needed to find, but I didn't feel like I actually learned where to go. And of course, I'm sure I could memorize it with enough time, but I just did not enjoy that at all. It was very fucking frustrating, backtracking, getting lost. If things looked a little bit differently, it would be easier to identify shit, but it was irritating to me. Now, if that doesn't bother you as much, it's going to be a much higher rated game for you, most likely, if you like action games like this. So keep that in mind with my review score. But you can see it's a pretty lengthy boss fight. There's a lot of patterns to learn. He has quite a few different attacks, so it definitely keeps it interesting. You also have a ball you can roll into and drop bombs, which is another one of your moves. You have a lot of moves. There's a lot, to a game, to this game. It's pretty much, it's a Turrican game. I mean, so if you're familiar with Turrican, you'll be familiar with most of the moves. The first Super Turrican is a pretty good game too, but this is way better. And this is, I would say, one of the best action games on the system. But for me, it's not going to get as highly rated as the praise that I'm giving it because of the one area that really fucking irritated me. It was enough to bring down the experience for me. So yeah, I'm going to give the game a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's real close to being a great game. But for me, it really suffers because of that one area. That's really the only problem I had with the game. But for you, if you like these kind of action games and you don't get real annoyed by navigation type of shit, it could easily be an 8.5 or a 9. But for me, it's a 7.5. Check out my tutorial as well, and thanks for watching.